Chapter 8, Cell, Structure and Functions. You have already learned that things around us are either living or non-living things. Further, you may recall that all living organisms carry out certain basic functions. Can you list these functions? Different sets of organs perform the various functions you have listed. In this chapter, you shall learn about the basic structural unit of an organ, which is the cell. Cells may be compared to bricks. Bricks are assembled to make a building. Similarly, cells are assembled to make the body of every organism. Discovery of the cell. Robert Hooke in 1665 observed slices of cork under a simple magnifying device. Cork is a part of the bark of a tree. He took thin slices of cork and observed them under a microscope. He noticed partition boxes or compartments in the cork slice. These boxes appeared like a honeycomb. He also noticed that one box was separated from the other by a wall or partition. Hooke coined the term cell for each box. What Hooke observed as boxes or cells in the cork were actually dead cells. Cells of living organisms could be observed only after the discovery of improved microscopes. Very little was known about the cell for the next 150 years after the Robert Hooke's observations. Today, we know a lot about cell structure and its functions because of improved microscopes having high magnification. The cell. Both brick in a building and cells in the living organisms are basic structural units, as you can see in figure 8.2 A and B. The buildings, though built of similar bricks, have different designs, shapes, and sizes. Similarly, in the living world, organisms differ from one another, but all are made up of cells. Cells in the living organisms are complex living structures unlike non-living bricks. And there is a box. A hen's egg can be seen easily. Is it a cell or a group of cell? It's a question being asked. It's like an activity for kids. Then, all right. The egg of a hen represents a single cell and is big enough to be seen by the unaided eye. 8.3. Organisms show variety in cell number, shape, and size. How do scientists observe and study the living cells? They use microscopes which magnify objects. Stains are used to color parts of the cell to study the detailed structure. There are millions of living organisms. They are formed of different shapes and sizes. Their organs also vary in shape, size, and number of cells. Let us study about some of them. Number of cells. Can you guess the number of cells in a tree or in a huge animal like the elephant? The number runs into billions and trillions. Human body has trillions of cells which vary in shapes and sizes. Different groups of cells perform a variety of functions. A billion is 1,000 million and a trillion is 1,000 billion. So you can understand how many cells are there. Then, organisms made up of more than one cell are called multicellular, where multi means many, cellular means cell organisms. The number of cells being less in smaller organisms does not in any way affect the functioning of the organism. You will be surprised to know that an organism with billions of cells begins life has a single cell, which is fertilized egg. The fertilized egg cell multiplies and the number of cells increase as development proceeds. Look at figure 8.3a and b. Both organisms are made up of single cells. The single-celled organisms are called unicellular. Uni means one, cellular means cell. This is the figure 8.3a. A is of amoeba and B is paramecium. A single-celled organism performs all necessary functions that a multicellular organism performs. A single-celled organism like amoeba captures and digests food, respires, excretes, grows, and reproduces. Similar functions in multicellular organisms are carried out by a group of specialized cells forming different tissues. Tissues in turn form organs. There is an activity 8.1. The teacher may show a permanent slide of amoeba and paramecium under a microscope. Alternatively, the teacher can collect pond water and show these organisms by preparing the slides. The shape of the cells. Refer to figure 8.3a. How do you define the shape of an amoeba in the figure? You may say the shape appears irregular. In fact, amoeba has no definite shape, unlike other organisms. It keeps on changing its shape. Observe the projections of varying lengths protruding out of its body. They are called pseudopodia. Pseudo means false and poria means feet, as you learnt in class 7th. These projections appear and disappear as amoeba moves or feeds. What advantage does amoeba derive by changing shape? The change in shape is due to the formation of pseudopodia, which helps and facilitates movement and help in capturing food. The white blood cell, WBC in human blood, is another example of a single cell which can change its shape. But while WBC is a cell, amoeba is a full-fledged organism capable of independent existence. What shape would you expect in organisms with millions of cells? Figure 8.a, b and c shows different cells such as blood, muscle, nerve of human beings. The different shapes are related to their specific functions. Generally, cells are round, spherical or elongated, as shown in figure 8.4a. Some cells are long and pointed at both ends. They exhibit a spindle shape, which is shown in figure 8.4b. Cells are sometimes quite long. Some are branched like nerve cell or a neuron. Figure 8.4c. The nerve cell receives and transfers messages, thereby helping to control and coordinate the working of different parts of the body. Can you guess which part of the cell gives its shape? Components of cell are enclosed in membrane. This membrane provides shape to the cells of plants and animals. Cell wall is an additional covering over the cell membrane in the plant cells. It gives shape and rigidity to these cells. Bacterial cell also has a cell wall. Size of cells. The size of cells in living organisms may be as small as millionth of a meter or micrometer or micron, or may be as large as a few centimeters. However, most of the cells are microscopic in size and are not visible to the unaided eye. They need to be enlarged or magnified by a microscope. The smallest cell is 0.1 to 0.5 micrometer in bacteria. The largest cell measuring is 170 millimeter into 130 millimeter is an egg of ostrich. Activity 8.1 2. Boil a hen's egg, remove the shell. What do you observe? A white material surrounds the yellow part. White material is albumin, which solidifies on boiling, and yellow part is yolk. It is part of a single cell. You can observe the single cell without any magnifying device. Are the cells in an elephant larger than the cells in a rat? The size of the cell has no relation with the size of the body of the animal or plant. It is not necessary that cells in the elephant be much bigger than those in rat. The size of the cell is related to its function. For example, nerve cells both in elephant and rat are long and branched. They perform the same function, that of transferring messages. Cell structure and function. You have learned that each living organism has many organs. You have studied in class 7th about the digestive organs, which together constitute the digestive system. Each organ in the system performs different functions such as digestion, assimilation, and absorption. Similarly, different organs of a plant perform specific or specialized functions. For example, roots help in the absorption of water and minerals. Leaves, as you have learned in class 7th, are responsible for synthesis of food. Each organ is further made up of smaller parts called tissues. A tissue is a group of cells performing a specific function. Paheli realized that an organ is made up of tissues, which in turn are made up of cells, and the cell is living organism, and the cell in living organism is the basic structural unit. Parts of the cell. Cell membrane. The basic components of a cell are cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus. The cytoplasm and nucleus are enclosed with the cell membrane and are also called plasma membrane. The membrane separates cells from one another and also the cell from the surrounding medium. The plasma membrane is porous and allows the movement of substances or materials both inward and outward. Activity 8.3. In order to observe the basic component of the cell, take an onion bulb, remove the dry pink coverings. You can easily separate these from the fleshy white layers of the bulb with the help of forceps or even with your hand. You can also break the onion bulb and separate out thin layers. Place a small piece of the thin onion peel in a drop of water on a glass slide. The thin layer can be cut into smaller pieces with the help of blade or forceps. Add a drop of methylene blue solution to the layer and place a cover slip on it. While placing the cover slip, ensure that there are no air bubbles under the cover slip. Observe the slide under the microscope, draw and label. You may compare it with figure 8.5. The boundary of the onion cell is the cell membrane covered by another thick covering called cell wall. The central dense round body in the center is called the nucleus. The jelly-like substance between the nucleus and the cell is called cytoplasm. I want to know why plant cells need cell walls. You have learned earlier that the cell membrane gives shape to the cell. In addition to the cell membrane, there is the outer thick layer in the cells of plants called cell wall. This additional layer surrounding the cell membrane is required by plants for protection. Plant cells need protection against variation in temperature, high wind speed, atmospheric moisture, etc. They are exposed to these variations because they cannot move. Cells can be observed in leaf peel of Tradescantia, Elodia or Rohia. You can prepare a slide as in case of onion. Paheli asked Bojo if he can also observe animal cells. Take a clean toothpick or a matchstick with a tip broken. Scrape inside your cheek without hurting it. Place it in a drop of water on a glass slide. Add a drop of iodine and place a cover slip over it. Alternatively, add 1 to 2 drops of methylene blue solution. Observe it under the microscope. You may notice several cells in the scraped material. As shown in figure 8.6, you can identify the cell membrane, the cytoplasm and nucleus. A cell wall is absent in animal cells. Gene. Gene is the unit of inheritance in a living organism. It controls the transfer of hereditary characteristics from parents to offspring. This means that your parents pass some of their characteristics on to you. If your father has brown eyes, you may also have brown eyes. If your mother has curly hair, you might also end up having curly hair. However, the different combination of genes from parents result in different characteristics. Cytoplasm. It is a jelly-like substance present between the cell membrane and nucleus. Various other components or cell organelles of the cells are present in cytoplasm. These are mitochondria, Golgi bodies, ribosomes, etc. You will learn about them in later classes. Nucleus. It is an important component of the living cell. It is generally spherical and located in the center of the cell. It can be stained and seen easily with the help of a microscope. Nucleus is separated from cytoplasm by a membrane called the nuclear membrane. This membrane is also porous and allows the movement of materials between the cytoplasm and the inside of the nucleus. With a microscope of higher magnification, we can see a smaller spherical bodies in the nucleus. It is called nucleolus. In addition, nucleus contains thread-like structures called chromosomes. These carry genes and help in inheritance or transfer of characteristics from parents to the offsprings. The chromosomes can be seen only when the cell divides. Nucleus, in addition to its role in inheritance, acts as a control center of the cell activity. The entire content of a living cell is known as protoplasm. It includes the cytoplasm and the nucleus. Protoplasm is called the living substance of the cell. Paheli wants to know if the structure of nucleus is the same in the cells of plants and animals and bacteria. The nucleus of a bacterial cell is not well organized like cells of multicellular organisms. There is no nuclear membrane. The cells having nuclear material without nuclear membrane are called prokaryotic cells. The organisms with these kinds of cells are called prokaryotes. Pro means primitive, karyon means nucleus. Examples are bacteria, blue-green algae. The cells like onion cells and cheek cells having well-organized nucleus with a nuclear membrane are designated as eukaryotic cells. All organisms other than bacteria and blue-green algae are eukaryotes. Eu means true and karyon means nucleus. While observing the onion cell under microscope, did you notice any blank-looking structures in cytoplasm? It is called vacuole. It could be single and big as an onion cell. Cheek cells have smaller vacuoles. Large vacuoles are common in plant cells. Vacuoles in animal cells are much smaller. You might have noticed several small colored bodies in cytoplasm of cells of Tradescentia leaf. They are scattered in cytoplasm of the leaf cells. These are called plastids. They are of different colors. Some contain green pigment called chlorophyll. Green colored plastids are called chloroplast. They provide green color to the leaves. You may recall that chlorophyll in the chloroplast of the leaves is essential for photosynthesis. 8.6 Comparison of plant and animal cells. If you recall activity 8.3 and 8.4, you should be able to compare plant and animal cells. Observe the plant and animal cells carefully in figure 8.7a and b. Let us tabulate the similarities and distinguishing features of plant and animal cells. Only a few features are mentioned. You may add more in table 8.1. So at the end, there is summary which we have learned. So there are the keywords and then the summary, which is all organisms are made up of smaller parts called organs. Organs are made up of still smaller parts, and the smallest living part of an organism is a cell. Cells were first discovered in a cock by Robert Hooke in 1665. Cells exhibit a variety of shapes and sizes. Number of cells also vary from organism to organism. Some cells are big enough to be seen within the unaided eye. Hen's egg is an example. Some organisms are single-celled while others contain large number of cells. The single cell of unicellular organisms performs all basic functions performed by a variety of cells in multicellular organisms. The cell has three parts: the cell membrane, the cytoplasm, which contains smaller components called organelles, and the nucleus. Nucleus is separated from cytoplasm by nuclear membrane. Cells without well-organized nucleus, that is lacking nuclear membrane, are called prokaryotic cells. Plant cells differ from animal cells in having an additional layer around the cell membrane termed cell wall. Colored bodies called plastids are found in the plant cells only. Green plastids containing chlorophyll are called chloroplast. Plant cells have a big central vacuole unlike a smaller Plant cell has a big central vacuole unlike a number of small vacuoles in animal cells. Thank you. If you like it, please share, subscribe and like it. Thank you.